Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Xaereth Prevails, a Grand Arena story. I'll be interested to know what the quality is of this video because I'm making it on my phone again because I am traveling for work, and I wanted to get this episode out before we started the next round of Grand Arena, which is tomorrow, in fact, as of this filming. So as of right now, we've made the finals, and everything's been looking good. I had a pretty decent round against my last round opponent. They were really skilled, and we both full cleared each other without any fails. And my finals opponent was looking like they were also going to be really tough, actually. So I feel like all of my matches, ever since they changed the new matchmaking system, have been really hard, and I guess that's what their intent is. I'm not really sure how I feel about that. I kind of would like a break at some point, but that's just what I get to do if I want to play Grand Arena, apparently, at this point. So taking a look at the match, my opponent absolutely did have the advantage in some things, particularly in mods. It seems like pretty much all of my opponents have the advantage in mods. To be honest, at this point, I'm not really sure what I've done wrong to deserve this. I'm almost thinking that I've had bad RNG, but I don't know. That seems like excuse making to me, and I'm not really that big of a fan of that. So, what really matters in this match, honestly, is that my Revan and Badstila are both faster than my opponents, Revan and Badstila. So I would be able to counter that team at the very least. Moving into this match, I saw that my opponent had once again placed Darth Revan on defense, which means that it was probably a good move that I kept my own Darth Revan for offense, just because even though it kind of turns it into an efficiency game at that point, I want to win, but I also want to get full points for the full clear if I can. And so, I tend to be pretty good at the efficiency game, and that's what I decided I would go for this time. My first match, I just decided to take out Darth Revan with my own Darth Revan. I don't think that was really any kind of a challenging decision on my part. I needed to use Darth Revan for his. That was the entire intention there. And then I also had kind of a weak squad next to that Darth Revan squad, so I'd be able to see what was in the zone right behind it. And you can see right away I was able to get fear off on the entire squad. My opponent had placed Marauder there instead of Sith Trooper, which meant that I could, with the faster Darth Revan, jump in and just put fear on everyone. And you can see I've been really going away from using the AoE on HK, at least initially, because the AoE is going to damage other squads, or rather other toons, and even the toons with fear. And if they do have fear, it takes the fear off, and that's not the desired result at all. We want to keep fear on until the toon has actually lost their turn. So in this case, it really did pay off, me being cautious, because only HK, who almost died, was missing protection and health. I got 58 banners. That was a little foreshadowing here. That was one of my more efficient attacks. It's all downhill from here, as they say. So one thing I've noticed in a lot of my Grand Arena matches lately is that I've been relying more and more on Kylo Ren, rather KRU, and his First Order squad. They're a really strong squad against a lot of these medium tier teams. And I mean, if you look at this Qi'ra team, there is no damage whatsoever. Like, I think the biggest damage that you can say happens is if Vander Chewbacca has prepared and uses his special, then I can do a little bit of damage, but nothing here is a threat to actually kill anything of mine. And so it's all it is really is a test to see if First Order can overcome all of these crazy buffs that we're seeing. it's kind of a stacked team in terms of there's two taunts, there are 2 revives, and Qi'ra's in the middle just kind of helping everyone do all of that stuff. And if you can chew through it in 5 minutes, then great, and if you can't, then it can get a little bit scary. So you'll notice right away that I was a little bit unfocused in my approach. Right from the very start, I took out Qi'ra just because she looked easy to take out, and then when Stormtrooper Han was really low health, I decided not to hit him for some reason. I'm really not sure what the decision making was on that. At that point, Vander still hadn't had his prepared buff up, but I think if I could redo this whole thing, I would just focus on Vander Chewbacca. I mean, that's all I've done really against this Qi'ra team with no damage. If you can take Vander out and then pretty quickly afterward take out Captain Han, then you're probably good to go. And really, maybe it would be wiser to kind of chip away at Captain Han's protection a little bit, but he's actually a relatively easy to kill character. He's pretty squishy, so I didn't have any problem removing him. Once you get rid of the taunts for a little bit from L3 and Stormtrooper Han, you can really just kind of lay into Vander or Captain Han, however you want to do it. This team really isn't that difficult. I think I probably could have beat it a little quicker if I had been a little more focused from the beginning, but as it stands, I still was really never in any real threat of timing out here. So 60 full banners here, and that's what we're looking for, obviously. And we just want to see what's in the back zone here, so we have more information so we can choose which teams we're going to counter with. And really, that's great results. Veer's troopers on defense is not really that strong, just because it's the AI playing it, and they don't play troopers very well. They don't do all the crazy combo of, Stark actually does his AoE before he does his buff on the team, so go figure. And then the Carth Old Republic team is a team that I've traditionally been able to get 60 banners on every single time, and so that's good. Now, I needed to be able to take out Grievous, and I needed to take out Geonosians, and it kind of caused me a little bit of a quandary. I knew that I was going to use Jedi Knight Revan to be able to take out Grievous, and one thing that you might notice was that I'm back to using Jedi Revan as the lead, and that's just because lately I've been really struggling with the Badstila lead. I've been using Badstila lead a lot, and she works really well against the teams that only have Gear 13 Grievous, but once you start getting more and more Gear 13 on that squad, she's really been struggling for me. I don't know if it's just been bad RNG or what. I don't have a chance to playtest it a ton, but I've just noticed that she's been struggling, and so I recently tried out Jedi Knight Revan against Grievous team, and I ended up pulling off the win, albeit like a really shaky win, and I decided that maybe I would try it one more time. So that's what this is. I'm just experimenting with my Jedi Revan team into a multi-Gear 13 droid team, and honestly, it's going relatively smoothly at this point. One thing I will say in favor of Jedi Revan on offense is that he does give a lot of offense. Like he hands out quite a bit of that. So in terms of it, like your hitting power, you're actually probably more likely to do a lot of good damage to the opponent's squad with Jedi Revan. That being said, I mean, Badstila also gives them offense. It's not quite as much as what Revan gives, but I guess it doesn't matter that much. So I actually was able to take out Grievous pretty quick, pretty easily. After I took out 2 of his droids, then just put Mark on him and take him out. I'm I'm gonna have to experiment with this a little bit more. I've actually been feeling a lot of stress lately just because I have been I don't know how to counter Grievous, if we're being frank. Like, I know you use Jedi Revan, I know what moves to use, but I think I just need more gear on the Jedi Revan squad. People are putting gear on the Grievous squad, and Revan is just kind of falling behind. I mean, it's the same principle as taking your Gear 11 squad into a Gear 12 squad. Even if you're advantaged in some ways, like, the gear disparity is going to catch up to you, and that's probably what's been happening here for me. Now, here is an interesting match. I decided to take Commander Luke with 3PO and R2 into this match instead of using the usual Traya counter, just because I thought that there was a decent possibility that my opponent would have placed Padme in the back zone, and I needed a squad that could counter Padme easily, which the only squad I had left that could do that was Traya. So I decided to go with Commander Luke. I actually have a video out that kind of shows, not just kind of, it does show my playtesting against a Geonosian squad in on my arena shard. One of my arena mates was kind enough to put their Geonosian squad in, and they actually just put Watt in for fun as well instead of Poggle. So if you're interested in that, take a look at my testing video. But one thing that went wrong in this fight is, I stunned the Brood Alpha. You can't fail on that. But then right after I stunned him, I had Tenacity down on the Brute, and Commander Luke is trying to get buff immunity onto him so that he can't taunt anymore, and that didn't happen. For whatever reason, that didn't apply. Maybe there's just like a % chance that it never does, and so I was forced to hit the Brute instead of anyone else. And the Brute has higher armor, it has more hit points. It's a lot harder to counter that team. Instead of, you want to kind of pick on Geonosian Soldier or Poggle if you can, and I just wasn't allowed to do that until I took him out. So I did end up getting 55 banners, which is okay, but I lost Chewie. I don't know if that was, it looked like really just awful RNG. Like, all they did was target Chewie, and maybe that's just like kind of built into their script, if they have Chewie as a target, they just always target him. I'm not really sure, so we'll have to figure that out. Maybe one thing I could have done was use R2 to pop smoke or something and have them target him for a minute. I'm not really sure. But as you can see here now, I'm using my Padme team. There was no Padme in the back. I'm using my Padme team to counter Nightsisters, as I generally do. And I'm forced to use my Zeta Barriss instead, which I'm actually kind of warming up to her. She has caused me a lot of frustration in the past just because I don't know. I'm just biased. I don't really like her. I've always thought that she worked to counter purposes with General Kenobi. People were always using that team as in the meta for a while. And so I just kind of have resisted putting a Zeta on Barriss for a long time, and honestly, she just keeps coming up. She's a really great character. She's had a sustained amount of awesome, so I just decided that I should probably get off my hindquarters and put a Zeta on her, which I'm glad I did, because she is viable with Padme. She's maybe not the absolute best choice. I still like 3PO for that role, but Xaereth does a lot of good things on this team. The primary thing being she's another warm body. Honestly, like, Padme doesn't need a whole lot to be able to run at a high level, and Barriss is an example of that. Like, she hits like a wet noodle in almost every circumstance except for when she's got her stacks of courage up, which, if you make her slow enough, which I don't think I really intended to make her slower than the rest of the team, but if you make her slow enough and then you use her heal ability, eventually, like, her stacks of courage are going to be high enough that she can do some really substantial damage with every hit that she does. Well, every hit when she has stacks of courage. And see, like I actually did an okay amount of damage to Talzin there with that one hit. It wasn't enough to take her out, but I know that, people have videos of Varys doing crazy hits. I mean, Cup can do crazy hits for that matter. I mean, it's all just having that Galactic Republic tag, and then Padme just turns all of them into nightmares, like into monsters. They can do a huge amount of damage. And, I really love using this Padme team, especially against Nightsisters. My only gripe is that it costs 4 banners every time. I would love to be able to find a counter where I could get full banners. Now, one thing to note here is that I've actually dropped quite a few banners leading up to this, and I think at this point I've dropped enough that even if I get a full 60 on every attack moving forward, it's going to I'm going to have a pretty low score. And I knew that I wasn't probably going to get full banners even at this point, just because I needed to use Traya. Now, Traya is good at taking out the team you need to take out with her, but she's not necessarily great at getting max banners. And so I went into this with 4 members. I didn't really know what to expect with this team. One of the cool things about Grand Arena is that you get to see a bunch of just random stuff that people come up with, and this is one of those things. I actually really like this team. It's got a lot of characters that I find extremely annoying, and Nute and Dooku and Nest all in one squad seems pretty strong. Jango is also really strong now that he's a separatist. I mean, he was strong before, but he's strong in the context of separatists now. And this is a really cool squad. I'm gonna give it some thought. I kind of don't think I'm gonna end up running it, just because that would take Jango away from my bounty hunters, and I'm actually intending to use Jango bounty hunters on defense this next round. Just as a small spoiler alert. Though actually, also a spoiler, I failed to place them. I forgot to place them in for my first round in the next match, or vice versa. My last match in my next round, but I've decided that I have too much on offense, and we'll go over that in a little bit. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. But this team that I'm facing here is really, like, it's doing a lot of damage. It's taking a lot of turns. Nute is just such an obnoxious dude. He just extorts everyone and makes his whole team stronger. I'm really excited for when I get Watt. I have a really cool team that I want to try with him, but I need to temper that excitement because I probably won't have Watt for another, I don't know, 4 weeks or something. It's the downfall of having a guild who, we're competitive enough in the greater scheme of things, but it takes a little bit for us to start earning the max prizes. So we're getting like 17. I think we got 17 Watt shards in our last territory battle, but yeah, it's still just gonna take a while. I don't think we're gonna get like the full 40 shards that we need in the next territory battle. So anyways, 56 banners here. It's kind of just it's demoralizing is what it is, because I'm desperately clinging on to these banners, and now if I get the perfect clear here against Carth and against the troopers, then I'll be able to get 1900, which 1900 is like, it's the danger zone. It's like if your opponent does not fail, they're almost certainly going to full clear you more efficiently than you cleared them. And so I really needed to make sure I got as many points as I could. So I decided to, my troopers are way faster than my opponents. He didn't have a Jango squad in there for me to be able to counter them with. So I decided to take him against troopers. So I took 4-man, and at first I thought that I had made a huge mistake. Like they weren't killing anyone. They weren't hardly making a dent in Veers at all. And then the momentum kind of shifted my way again. I think I just got a little bit of bad RNG, and I was able to get 61 banners here. So a little bit of an upward trend, though. I mean, I wasn't going to take a smaller squad against the Carth squad just because I didn't really have much offense left at this point. And so the most I could get here was, if I got a perfect score against Carth, the most I could get was 1901, which is just not a great score. Especially because my opponent had left a ton of stuff on offense. So this was kind of a strange Carth team. It had young Lando, which I don't really know what the reasoning for him is. Maybe my opponent can chime up in the comments at some point, but I mean, maybe it was just for him to take the initial brunt of attacks. I don't really know. But he went down fairly quickly, and I was doing okay. I mean, I took out a guy like right away. I was able to get a dispel on Zalbar, and then Canderous and Mission just started going so many times, and I realized that the same thing was happening to me that has happened in the past, where Bossk kind of just like gets locked down, and he can't do anything. He's just stuck. He's dazed. He can't do anything. He's just taunting, and they're just like pounding him. And he's getting all these dots because he's got tenacity down, and you know, he's so susceptible to that. Apparently, it's really pretty frustrating. And then if you have his Zeta on the taunt, like, it just doesn't go away. So he just died just like that, and I was like, am I gonna just lose this match? Is it just over? You know, like losing to Carth with bounty hunters, and it's not even like a fully geared Carth team. It's not, you know, the Lando guy who was in it, like, I thought maybe he had some hidden synergy, but he just like died right away. And so kind of just seeing them take down my Bossk like that, it was really frustrating, because that meant I would, by no stretch of the imagination, be able to get full banners here. I think the most I can get now, well, I don't even know, like, is it 55, 57 maybe? But I was able to regain a little bit of momentum. I took out Carth, and you know, things were looking a little bit better. I took out Canderous with a huge hat throw with Embo, and you know, once it's just Zalbar and Mission, I mean, they can do some damage, but they're not like the scariest duo ever. I mean, they can be frustrating. If we had less time, maybe I'd be concerned, but as it stands, like, now I just really need to focus on getting full banners. So just doing all I can to hit them with debuffs. And in a way, like, I think I waited a little bit too long for that, because Zalbar was somehow, he was really hard to take out earlier and do damage for, and now he became really easy. I got a batch of good RNG apparently, which was actually bad because I didn't have time to fully heal. Got 55 banners, and I was stuck with a really super inefficient score. And you know, it was cool for a little bit. I was ranked like number 100 in the Division 1, which, I mean, I've been there. I've been ranked top 50, but right away my opponent took a bite out of my zone. This was a little bit later. I think they lost 4 banners to my Nightsisters. They actually gained 1 banner. They got 61 banners against my General Grievous squad. And my opponent later told me that they used Badstila as the lead against my General Grievous squad. And they didn't even use Jolie. They used Grandmaster Yoda. So it was Badstila lead, Jedi Knight Revan, Grandmaster Yoda, and Hermit Yoda. And that was it. And they got 61 banners. My clones took a couple hits, and my opponent did lose quite a few banners toward the end, but it just wasn't enough to make up for my super duper crazy lack of inefficiency. And so it was that I ended up losing this match. They didn't end up failing any of their attacks, and I lost by 9 banners. 9 is a huge margin in terms of efficiency. Like, I, man, I, even if I had done really well with one of my teams, I still would have lost. So I needed to, there were a couple mistakes I made. I'm really thinking the bounty hunters, I know that I used to say I love them on offense. I'm using them less and less. When I do use them, they're kind of failing me. I'm going to put them on defense next time. Well, the time after for episode 5. So we have that to look forward to at least. And I'm actually changing up a lot of things on my defense. I think I'll have a much stronger defense. I'm not really sure how my offense is going to do. We're going to give a lot of teams some spin, so it's going to be interesting. So stay tuned for the next round. Thank you guys so much for watching. And remember that in all things, Xaereth prevails, even when he loses.